All right. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you all. My name is Abhigna. I am a rising honors senior from Morris Plains, New Jersey. And here at UD, I am majoring in interpersonal communication with minors in neuroscience and public health. So just a little bit about me. Outside of school, I enjoy being a Munson Fellow and working as an academic peer mentor for first-year students in the Honors College. I'm also a research assistant for a social policy research center here on campus called CREST. But aside from that, I currently serve as the vice president for the Resident Student Association, and I'm running to be elected as your president for the upcoming academic year. I'd like to begin with my RSA background and how the experiences I have had translate specifically to what the job responsibilities of the president will look like. My leadership journey with RSA began all the way back in my freshman year. I ran for, but initially lost the presidency for Lewis Redding's Community Council, which I know is a risky choice of story to tell during this speech. But I still had I want to emphasize that I had a really strong interest in being a student leader in the halls. So I helped construct a new position for myself called Student Communities Liaison, which was essentially a floor liaison, and it allowed me to continue to serve on the board. During this time, my favorite project was something we call the Rolling Whiteboard Initiative, and we identified the needs for increased whiteboard space and study supplies in the hall lounges by polling our fellow residents, and then provided for that need by collaborating with RSA. And this was my first introduction to student affairs and the world of advocacy, and seeing the visible difference that I was able to make on a building level was really special to me. And I think what this experience taught me overall was that the title that I had isn't what ultimately mattered. It was the drive to make positive change in any capacity that I could. And in addition to our values and mission, keeping that at the forefront of my mind is what I think is going to help me best represent RSA's interests in all professional spaces moving forward. During my sophomore year, I served as the RSA Director of External Communications, which is the same as this year's Digital Marketing and Communications position. You can thank me for that name change as well. And in this position, I played a major role in representing RSA through meaningful marketing initiatives. I feel that my biggest contribution here was being intentional about how RSA transitioned online to the virtual landscape after the school closure back in last March. And as overseer of social media, I had a platform at my disposal, and I really strived to expand our digital presence through creative media interaction. I gained a lot of skills with outreach and learned best practices for communication through this role. But even more than that, I believe that my academic background with interpersonal communication and my history of active student engagement through all the positions that I've held so far at this university has really equipped me with the right resources and frame of mind to establish the right conversations with administration and student leaders across campus. Finally, this past year, it has been a joy to serve as RSA's vice president. And in this position, I focused a lot more on maintaining internal operations, including streamlining our record-keeping and filing system, and also expanding on the process that we have in place for transitioning executive boards. I am most proud of my contributions towards organizing a successful inaugural ball event in collaboration with our sister organization, NRHH, at the beginning of the year, despite the challenges that did emerge from the online semester. And I mention these because managing operations is a significant aspect of the president's role as well. And if elected, I am confident that what I have learned about adaptability and resiliency will inform how I approach these responsibilities and embrace challenges through next year and the rest of my life as well. So through those responsibilities and experiences, I am seeking to grow the organization in a number of ways if I am elected. I specifically aim to place a significant focus on rebuilding and regrowing our presence and influence at UD by prioritizing the following three areas. First, mentorship. Right now, we have an excellent campus development committee that does a lot of good things for this campus, and the CAB mentor system. And both of those are prime examples of how collaboration with a mentor can inspire new ideas and new connections. But I definitely see potential for improvement in the way that executive board officers interact with our constituents. RSA is a part of a very complex system with a lot of moving parts, And I feel that if we just included our hall leaders in some of our programs beyond just the stage of participation, it would provide better context for how we operate, as well as encourage further opportunities for teamwork and networking. Drawing from my experience as an Honors Munson Fellow and also being in a more supportive role on the RSA board this year, I have learned the value of effective guidance and want to use that to cultivate a community here that leads together. Next, network. RSA has historically strived to build relationships with RSOs across campus, but historically it has also here and there fallen a little short despite our efforts to do that. I aim to take a new approach to this by establishing an open dialogue with presidents of student organizations at the university to try and facilitate this outreach a little bit more directly. We represent over 7,500 students across campus, and my goal with this is that more of those voices are included in our conversations and that we will use them to inform our future initiatives moving forward. Finally, growth. As the vice president, part of my role was an acting historian for RSA, and I kept records of current members of the organization, as well as an alumni roster for RSA. But that information is something that has never been built upon before. So I intend to expand upon that by working to develop a structured alumni network. I see a lot of value in fostering connections between current student leaders and past RSA officers, and I would love to generate platforms for RSA alum to inspire future generations of leaders. In essence, I believe that my 3 years of experience with the Resident Student Association have provided me with the context and vision to serve with a purpose. I hope to continue on that journey of creating impactful change in the lives of others, alongside a strong team of individuals who are equally passionate about making voices heard. So with that, I am thrilled to be running to be your president for the upcoming academic year, and I hope you consider voting for me this election season. Thank you all so much for your time, and I yield the rest of my time to questions.
All right, thank you so much, Abby. We'll now move into a period of question and answer for duration of 5 minutes, extendable 2 times. So if we have more questions that spill over the 5-minute time period, GA members can move to extend Q&A by 5 to 10 minutes as they so choose. With that, we will yield for X's in the chat to begin Q&A.
Yes, X from Connor.
Our current president, Ryan Beil, has spent most of his presidential term mending the relationship with Residence Life and Housing and tried to get us to be a closer unit and allowing RSA to have more opportunities in that realm. How do you plan to continue that campaign and see it through?
That is a really good question. I think one way that I would love to see us be included in the conversations with Residence Life and Housing and vice versa is having specific members of the board per their interest hopefully sit in on some meetings with Residence Life as it pertains to us and our business, so that not only can we be included in conversations that are relevant to us and what we do, but it will hopefully help us to build stronger connections with Residence Life, especially since there is an overlap with our constituents. Did that answer your question, and would you like me to elaborate?
I don't personally need you to elaborate. I understand your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Any other questions?
I'd like to see maybe an additional 1 or 2 questions, maybe from some GA members, and give you some time to think as well.
Yeah, Lorna.
So in your slides, you were talking about like mentorship and stuff, and I was wondering if you could like elaborate a little more on what you think that would look like if you were president.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So one specific way that I think would be valuable in how RSA mentors CAB members is in my stream of thought with this essentially was including student leaders in residence halls through some of our more social initiatives, right? So we have the Campus Development Committee that works primarily with our value of advocacy and seeks out ways to promote that. But I would love for our constituents to gain skills and experiences by potentially shadowing us and leading events, helping us to lead events if they desire, so that they are involved further than just participation. So what I was thinking here was creating little spotlight groups with the programs that we want to push forth. The difference here would be that there's a greater focus on campus social engagement over advocacy, since we have that already. But let's say RSA wants to see through a program like a game night, inviting our GA members to help with parts of that planning process, like budgeting and promotion and even running parts of the program. I think that would be a cool way to demonstrate how programs work and offer guidance for how those CAB members can then mimic that process when they program for their halls. So that that connection and networking and that little bit of shadowing experience, I believe would be really valuable for people who are interested in student leadership moving forward. I'm a huge proponent of experiential learning, and that would be how I would push that forward. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. That was great.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from anybody? Yes, Connor.
With the other things that you're involved in, how do you plan to make the presidential position at RSA still be a large priority with how much is expected from the president position?
That is a good question. So I mentioned that I currently work as a Munson Fellow. Regarding that, that is actually has a term limit. So this is my second year as a Munson.
Time has expired for questions.
Okay.
I'd like to seek a motion to extend question and answer, maybe by 5 minutes, from a member of our General Assembly meeting, or General Assembly rather. Just to review Parley Pro, what we need here is just an X in the chat, and then you would say, I move to extend Q&A by 5 minutes. Lorna?
I move to extend Q&A by 5 minutes.
Perfect. Can we get a second in the chat represented by a 2 or a caret? Perfect. Thanks, Lisa. All right, Connor and Abby, y'all may continue.
Okay, thank you. So like I was saying, I am a Munson Fellow this year, but Munson Fellows do have a term limit of 2 years. And for me, that is ending this year. So that is something that I will no longer be involved with moving forward. And I believe that that is something that will allow me to prioritize RSA. The other side of it is I also mentioned that I was a research assistant for a research center on campus. With that, I am able to build my own hours with that involvement, and that is something that I definitely see myself being able to work around, just based on the fact that I can choose whenever my hours are. So moving forward and looking at the responsibilities of the president and the importance of what we do as an organization, I believe with the other involvements that I have going on, I will easily be able to prioritize RSA as my #1 thing, following school, of course. Did that answer your question?
Yes, great answer.
Awesome. Any other questions?
All right, seeing no more questions, I will entertain a motion to end Q&A from the GA. Just for reference here, we need an X in the chat, and then a GA member will unmute and say, Sylvia, move to end Q&A. So Sylvia, you'd unmute and say, we move to end Q&A.
We move to end Q&A.
Perfect. Can we get a second? Second from Travis. Thank you very much.